tell you what, Sam, I've got a cough.
Hello and welcome to the Accidental Journalist Live and Undrugged, episode 2. I'm here with Joey, and we're going to have a chat about his life, about his book, and we're going to, just find out a bit about him. This episode is sponsored by Jason Edwards and his book Monsters Among Us. So, Joey, mate, let's take it back to the start, tell us how you grew up and where you came from and where your life took you.
Hello, everyone. Do you know what? I've got a little bit of a cough tonight, so
that's all right, mate. Take your time.
I'll take my time. Right, hello, everyone. As you all know, my name is Joey Barnett. I come from southwest London, a little place called Mitcham Lane, which is in Streatham, southwest 16. I was brought up in Tooting, born in Tooting, which is in southwest London, southwest 17, and I moved from Tooting's over to Streatham when I was 5 or 6 years of age. Basically we moved to a place called Streatham Vale. I come from a very loving background, very good family support. I've got 2 older sisters. I'm the youngest of the family, so I'm the only son, so I'm the bit of the baby of the family. I know I don't look a baby, but I am a baby. So anyway, I've got 2 older sisters. One's Pamela, she's the eldest, and the other one's Angela. And obviously my mum and my dad at that time. It wasn't until we actually moved from Tooting to Streatham, I think I was about, as I said, about 5 or 6 years of age, that my mum had split up with my my real dad and had met another guy called John, which used to work on for Murphy's, a big firm called Murphy's on the roads, digging the roads. He's an Irish bloke from Northern Ireland, and he was only over from Northern Ireland probably a couple of years. But so my mum split up with my real dad. My dad was in the army, very regimental, very, very strict. Couldn't leave the table unless we cleared our plate. Wasn't allowed to swear. Regularly, I used to get a belt. So it's not acceptable nowadays, but them days it was acceptable, you know. So we used to get the belt quite a lot. Very strict. I was not scared of him, but I was always aware that he could hit me, you know, and hurt me. He had big hands. He was in the army. He wasn't really violent, my dad. He come from a working background. He was a mechanic. He passed all his courses in the army and he spent many, many years. But anyway, so I'm going on a little bit. Sorry about that.
It's all right, fine.
So anyway, Jack, so basically, once my mum split up with my dad, she went with John. And not long after going with John, John moved into our family home. I was very, very aware that John wasn't my real dad, and I never ever called him my dad. I called him John. John did take the role as a dad completely and utterly in every single way. He gave us the love, the family, the support, the money. You know, I had everything what a kid could wish for as a young kid. I never went without nothing. They give me anything I ever wanted. I was spoiled rotten. But unfortunately, my stepdad had a bit of a nasty side to him.
Right.
He wasn't an alcoholic, but he was what you call a drinker. So basically, as I said, I had a lovely upbringing. He used to take us to the parks every weekend, and we used to go on holidays and camping, all the latest fashion. I had everything as a kid, but he had what I now know is an addiction to alcohol. And what he used to do is at 4 or 5 o'clock, we used to wait indoors. And if he wasn't home by 5 o'clock, me and my just older sister, Angela, would be like shaking and really worried and nervous what he was going to come home like after work. Because what he used to do, if he had an argument with my mum the previous night, the next day, he'd go to work, and then after work he'd go into the pub and get steaming absolutely drunk. I've seen him coming home with his throat cut, his face cut, blood all over him. Numerous times. He was very, very, very violent. Very well known throughout Southwest London as being violent and very, very feared. Even by the top gangsters of Southwest London at that time, they were still scared of my stepdad John. He was an absolute fucking lunatic. So, but yeah, it was really, really good to me. But what happened was when I was about 7 or 8, he used to come home drunk, and because I looked very much like my real dad, when he used to come home drunk, he used to look at me, and he used to call me like my dad. He used to say, "You look like your dad. You're pig. You're this. You're that. I'm going to kill you." And literally like put the fear of God into me. And at that time, he was violent towards me. You know, only like slapping and pushing, but it was more like the fear factor of it. Because when I say violent, I mean he used to smash our house to pieces from top to bottom. The windows, the TV, the front room, the table, the kitchen. The police were called on numerous occasions, and he got arrested on numerous occasions for being violent towards my mum. We couldn't, at that time, I couldn't quite understand why my mum wouldn't leave him, because, you know, my mum she come from a very, very big background, my mum. My mum was a Lee. So, and she come from in Southwest London. She had a very, very lot of family support around her. And on numerous occasions, like, she was confronted and said, like, "Do you want us to get rid of him? And we can see what he's doing to you. We can see what he's doing to your kids," you know. But no way, she would not turn, and she would not let none of them have a pop at him. She wouldn't let him kick him out. So basically, she stayed with him. And now I realise it was the wrong thing to do, because seeing the violence and seeing all that stuff at the age where I was, it had a big impact on me later on in life, but I didn't know. And obviously my mum was oblivious to what was going to happen to me later on in life. You know, I was the only son, as I said. She gave me everything. I had the world. So she probably didn't realise what impact it would have on me by having a very violent person around me at that age. So this went on until I got to about 10, maybe 11 years of age. At least twice or 3 times a week, he was staying out after work, coming home drunk, smashing the house up. He wasn't really physically hitting my mum, but he would get a plate and throw a plate in my mum's face, or he'd get the coffee table, the glass table, and throw it straight over my mum. And if I was in the way, or Angela was in the way, we'd get it too. Do you know what I mean? He didn't really. So yeah, that's how I was brought up, really, like that. And then when I got, as I say, when I got to about 11 or about 12, the arguments didn't get no easier. They just got worse and worse and worse. The violence got worse and worse and worse. He went to prison numerous times for hitting my mum. And one day, my mum must have had an instinct that something drastic or really bad was going to happen, because it got to about 8 o'clock. And she said to me and my sister Angela at that time, she said, "We better leave the house. He's not home. He's going to come home drunk, and I'm scared of what he's going to do." So my mum's neighbour, which is her name is Maureen and Tom, they lived on a road called Woodmanston Road, which is in Streatham Vale in Southwest London, Southwest 16. They was my friends, my mum's friends. So my mum said, "Come on, let's go." And we run along to my mate's, my mum's friend's house. We sat inside the house for probably about 2 hours, and all of a sudden we heard blue sirens coming, and we all ran to the front. We was all petrified, scared, you know, because he was like walking past the neighbour's house, which the house we was in, and he was screaming, "Where are you? Where are you? I'm gonna fucking kill you! I'm gonna kill you!" So he was looking all up and down the street for us. And at the same time, the blue lights were going, and I had the sirens coming. And before I knew it, to be honest with you, I can't really remember too much about it. But from what I can remember of it is, my mum, we all went out into the front, John was in the back of the police van, which is the Black Maria, whatever you want to call it, a meat wagon. And the house what he was living in was in about 120 foot, 150 foot of flames. He torched the house. It makes me go cold now thinking about it, to be honest with you. But prior to this, as I said, we went through quite a lot, but prior to this, he tried to take his own life by suicide. You know, he would go out into the garage. He'd get a hose pipe. He'd run a hose pipe from the exhaust pipe into the car, and he'd run the car for a couple of hours and try and kill himself until my mum come out and found him. And another time, we went indoors and we found his head inside the oven, and the gas was on. So yeah, basically, he was an utter fucking lunatic. He had we had the love and the affection and the money and everything else, all the material stuff. Not so much the love, but we had material things.
Yeah, but that can't have been easy for you to have seen that at such a young age.
Yeah. So basically, you know, the school which I joined at that time was called Woodmanston, and I couldn't get my head down the school. I had so much going on in my mind. I just couldn't concentrate, and I was a bit of a clown of the class, even from a young age. I knew I wasn't ever going to do well at school. I didn't like authority. I didn't like anyone in uniform. I didn't like being told what to do. I was very biased against the system. So I just got pushed from pillar to post. I got threw out of that school within about probably 6 months. So yeah, we got moved from there because obviously the house got burnt down, and my stepdad got 18 months. He went into prison, and we got moved to a place about 5 miles up the road, which is another place called Streatham. This is Southwest 16. This is in a place called Mitcham Lane. So yeah, we moved around to Mitcham Lane. John was in prison, and we carried on with our life as normal. Or as good as could be at that time. In the meantime, my real dad had come back on the scene because he was taking us out of a weekend. So in the meantime, my real dad had spoken around my mum and got round her, and he got back into the house. So, you know, my dad come back in. My dad stayed in the house all the time. John, my stepdad, was in prison. My dad was in the house. And about a week before John got released from prison, my dad left us again.
Right.
He once he left the army, he was a diesel fitter, a very good mechanic, and he was very wanted for in different lorry car parks and mechanics places. He was a very good diesel fitter. So basically, he took a job as a long distance lorry driver, and yeah, he was away more than when he was at home. When he got that job, he was away. So John got out of prison, and whilst my dad was away, I don't know how it happened, but John seemed to move back into the house.
Right.
While my real dad was gone. So basically, my childhood was pushed between my stepdad and my real dad. My stepdad didn't like the fact that I looked like my real dad, and he hated my real dad. My stepdad and my real dad had numerous fights, not with fisticuffs, neither. They were stabbing each other with big swords, daggers, every opportunity they got to fight each other. They literally tried to kill each other. So basically, when John, my stepdad, moved back into my house, my real dad was coming around every weekend to take me and my sister Angela out for the day. And on one occasion, I can remember, my real dad come around, and he had a little Mini Cooper, and he was sitting there, and he had his elbow outside the window like that, and he was waiting for me and my sister to come out the window, and my stepdad was in the house, and he see my real dad pull up, and he ran from inside the house with a big sword, like a massive, big, I can't even do it on the screen, it was that big, like a big sword, and basically he's gone straight away across my stepdad's elbow and chopped his elbow off. Right in front of me, so there was blood all up the road. My dad drove off. So yeah, that was that. a little while went on, then the row started again with my stepdad and my mum. So my mum threw my stepdad out again, and my real dad, moved back home again. This was by the age I was probably 13 or 14. This all that happened. Yeah, I was 13. Yeah. So whilst all this is going on, my mum became very, very ill. She contracted breast cancer, and as I say, I'm the only son. I'm the baby of the family, and I was the apple of my mum's eye. My mum was my world, and I still cry about my mum today. It's really upsets me. But my mum contracted breast cancer, so she was taken into Royal Marsden Hospital to have surgery and chemo and radiation and have her breast removed. And my real dad was living at home with me and Angela at that time. My eldest sister, which was Pamela, she had moved out previously and got married to my brother-in-law, which is Robert, and they had their own family. So very, very close. And Robert's a very lovely man. They visited everywhere for me, done everything for me. Lovely people. Still up to this day now, I've got so much respect for Robert. So yeah, where was I at, Jack? Sorry, I'm getting a little bit run away. Oh, right. I've come back.
That's
Sorry.
Right.
Right, I've come back. Sorry. This is, by the way, my very, very first live podcast. I've done a few on my own.
You're doing very well, mate. You're doing very well.
I haven't really opened up to many people, Jack. So I must trust you, and I must half like you for you to even get this far with me. So thanks for putting that trust in me, mate. I appreciate that very much.
That means a lot, mate.
Well, so anyway, Jack. So yeah, my mum was in the Royal Marsden Hospital having her breast removed, and my dad was at home. He was very strict to me and Angela. I remember one afternoon vividly. My dad was hoovering upstairs with a hoover, very heavy hoover, and my sister Angela was at the bottom of the stairs. We were both having a little chat, and I remember, I'll never forget it. My real dad shouted out, "Shut up, be quiet, be quiet." He was a bit of a control freak, if you wasn't talking to him or you wasn't talking about him, he didn't want other people talking. He was that bad, fucked up in the head. So anyway, before we even knew it, he threw the hoover down the stairs and he hit my sister and he broke her hip. That was another occasion. And this was all the time whilst my mum was in hospital, having her breast removed. My sister Pamela was coming, and Robert was coming around during the daytime doing the motherly and fatherly thing, because she's 10 years older than me. So she was making sure that we was fed up and we was all good and everything else, But she didn't really. She knows now, but I don't think she was aware at that time of really the violence what we were subjected to by my dad. So she didn't really intervene at that time. So yeah, can I just have a quick drink, Jack?
Of course you can. Take your time, mate.
So then, whilst my mum was in hospital, there was a knock on the door about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. My dad opened the door up. I was upstairs in my bedroom. I think Angela might have been at school, or she might have been out with one of her mates. But I was at home myself with my dad. My dad opened the door. I come out of my bedroom, and all I see was about 3 policemen and about 4 people in white coats. And I was dumbfounded. I was shocked, and I shouted, "Who's this? Who's this?" And before I knew it, two of the policemen had grabbed hold of me, and the doctors, and they frog marched me into the front room. I don't really know what went on, but I see a bit of paper and a pen. My dad signed something on a bit of paper, and before I knew it, I was put in the back of a minibus and sent to a hospital which was in Epsom, and it's called Longgrove Mental Institution. I was 13 years of age when I got sent to a mental institution, and I had no previous convictions or nothing of mental health at all around me at that time. But I was sent into this mental institution. I was absolutely dumbfounded. I didn't know what was going on. No, I was only a kid. I was only 13. My mum was in hospital. Angela, my sister, didn't even know what was going on. Pam didn't know what was going on. And I was put into this adolescent place with all these elderly people and psychiatric people in this nut house. And during the daytime, we was put into this was a residential place, by the way, where we had to stay in in like a dormitory.
Yeah.
So at the daytime we was doing they put me onto group sessions. I don't remember nothing about any of the group sessions because it wasn't anything important to me. And at the back of the ward, what we lived on, a dormitory, there was like a greenery. So it was a set of double doors that led onto the greenery, a recreational area. And I always remember I went out after I come back from the group. I think it was about on the second day after I come back from the group. I went out onto the lawn, and I just see loads of people like shuffling their feet, turning around, talking to themselves. Some really messed up things. I remember like the doctors coming around and they was giving me an injection in the cheek of my bum every 2 days. After probably about coming up to 2 weeks, maybe 10 days of going to these group things every day, it wasn't locked on a dormitory. There wasn't bars on the windows, but it was a dormitory, and it was obviously in the hospital ground. At that time, there was no security. So it's about 4 o'clock in the morning. I woke up, I had my pajamas on, and I just said to myself, I'm going to escape. I'm escaping, I'm going, I'm not staying here. And 4 o'clock in the morning, I got out of bed and I started walking the back streets of Epsom, which is in Surrey. It's pitch black, the streets, a dark night. I was walking about for hours and hours and hours. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. I was crying my eyes out. I was in such a state. I didn't know whether I was having a mental breakdown. I just didn't know what was going on. But then I thought I'm too young to be having a mental breakdown. I just didn't have a clue. So I made it to Epsom train station at about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. But there wasn't no trains running. So I found a waiting room and I had to hide underneath a train, underneath a waiting table. The table in the waiting room for the train to come. I had some weird looks, but I got on the train. 20 minutes later, I got home, and I run all the way from the train station, from Streatham Common train station, and I ran back to my house, which is in Mitcham Lane. It's about 3 miles away. I run there, so you can imagine by the time I got home, I was a wreck. To my surprise, as I knocked on the front door, my mum answered the front door. And as she answered the door, I just collapsed into her arms. I was just like a wreck, an absolute wreck. And Angela was there, my mum was there, my dad was gone, and we was just all crying our eyes out, and we just couldn't believe what was going on. And I said, please, mum, I've got to go back. I've got to go back. And she was trying to make me feel better and say, no, you've never got to go back there again. But we've got to phone your social worker or something to get them to come down to have a chat with us, because obviously you've escaped. So it was a few hours later, my social worker come down, a few doctors come down, and a few other people come down. I can't really remember who, but all I can remember is a psychologist or psychiatrist saying to me, can I draw a family tree? And basically I got the pen and paper and I drew the family tree in about 10 seconds. They asked me a few questions and I answered them straight away. And within a few hours, the doctor gave me a fully diagnosed, and he said, I'm sorry about this. He should have never ever been sent there. It was your dad, Joey Barnett, what actually got you sectioned. A big misunderstanding. And I'm diagnosing you with hyperactive. You're very hyperactive. You're a very hyperactive kid, which made me a little bit different from the rest.
This would have been before ADHD, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was before that. Yeah, we used to call it restless, or it was Savata's dance, or I don't know what it was called, but maybe my childhood or something made me a little bit different from the rest. So that's the upbringing I had. And that went on. My mum stayed with my stepdad until I got to, I think it was 15, maybe not even 15 years of age. And they bought a place, they bought the house off the council, so they got it cheap. And they decided to up camp and move away to a place called West Sussex, Little Hampton, which is by the beach. It was always my mum's dream to set up a bed and breakfast by the beach and to get away from London. I don't know whether she thought that getting away from London would help me and help the family. I'm not too sure at that time, or whether they just wanted to get away to have a better life themselves. I'm not too sure, but I did move with them at first. You know, I was only 15, 16. I didn't like the area. I was missing my friends. I was missing all my family. So very, very quickly I moved out. By this time I was probably 16. I moved out and I moved back in with my sister, which was Pamela at that time, and stayed with Pamela and Robert. And my other sister Angie was all family. We had a very good family network that we still have now, as I say. So yeah, that was my childhood. But I forgot to say that before my parents had moved away, running up to before I got to 15, 16, I've missed quite a lot out, Jack. Sorry about this. But
it's all right, mate.
I started when I got to about 13, maybe 12, 13, 14. I started hanging about with the wrong crowd. I started hanging about with older people.
Yeah.
Kids of my age didn't really appeal to me. I wasn't interested in kids of my age. I see fast cars. I see all gold. I see people having nice things. And to be honest with you, the older generation, they welcomed me with open arms, and it was like they was taking on as their son or something like that. But it's not something now I realised that it's far from that. You know, they led me into a fucking life of crime.
Yeah.
There was no friends of mine. Do you know what I mean? To make me want to do the things what like I was made to do when I was that age. You know, I would be going out with like say a couple of us. Say like for instance, we'd be doing a domestic burglary, probably on an industrial estate of a warehouse or something like that. Where I was so small, I was the youngest of the gang, and I was skinny, and I was up for it. I was game. I was always the first in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was getting arrested quite a lot, probably every other weekend. I dragged my mum through Balham juvenile courts all of my life, right away up until I got to an adult prison. Every other weekend, I was in court for like taking and driving away vehicles, burglaries, criminal damage. Not really violence. I wasn't really into violence at that time. I was more into like having fun. I like the adrenaline. I like the fast things, and I like the fast lane. Violence never really appealed to me. Obviously, unless I had to, like, then I could be violent, you know, because I was brought up in violence, so it became a second nature to me. But I wasn't really. I wasn't set out to be violent or nothing like that. So where was I? So yeah. So by the time my mum and my dad had moved to Little Hampton, I'd got sent to Send, which was a ball store at that time, and I was, I think, 14 or maybe the oldest, 15, and my sentence was nine months to 2 years or something like that, and they called it the short sharp shock. Short, sharp shock. Sorry about that, my language. They called it that. So yeah, 15 in a ball stall, fit right in. Always the first one to do things. Always game. I see plenty of violence. I was abused numerous times, not sexually but physically by the officers. You know, used to get idings every other day. He was getting punches on the jaws. You know, the regime was so strict. It was worse than the army. It was, nowadays it's called abuse. You know, they can't get away with it. It got that bad that they actually abolished ball stalls because of the treatment what we was getting given by older people. So yeah, with seeing my stepdad being violent, my real dad obviously being violent, obviously me going into ball stalls, 15, I come out of ball stall. My gang couldn't wait to get me back in the firm, getting back with them. Now they know I've been to prison, they know I'm clued up. they know I'm not a grass. I won't open my mouth up. You know, I'm an up and coming. I was an up and coming lad. So basically, I riz up through the ranks very, very quick. I got very, very, very well known throughout Southwest London, even over East London. I was known for the wrong reasons, obviously, because I was bang at it. And that was my first stint in prison when I got to the ball stall. From there, I wasn't out probably, 6 months maximum. I've got a very, very big family, and one thing I won't do to you, Jack, is lie.
Yep.
But I was out for about 6 months from that, and then I got sent for burglary, another 2 commercial burglaries. They abolished the ball stalls, and that time young offenders had come in. So I got 15 months for 2 commercial burglaries, and I got sent into Feltham young offenders.
Right. Okay.
I was on a wing in Feltham called Eagle Wing. It was notorious in there. So yet again, I fitted in there, and I see a few of my old pals, what I knew from on the street. The violence in there was unbelievable. You know, if you looked at someone wrong, you get a PP9 and a sock round the back of your head. So yeah, that was it. That was my first stint of prison, really. The writing was on the walls from a very, very, very early age for me, and it wasn't until I got into my late 40s that I actually stopped going to prison. But in the meantime, obviously, drugs, as I progressed later on through my criminal background, obviously drugs come into the equation. Bigger crimes come into it, bigger prison sentences come into it. I started meeting better links, more links, and it just progressed and progressed and progressed. It just didn't get no easier. I didn't get no break. I never really went to work as a kid. As I say, I couldn't be told what to do. If anyone told me what to do, I should tell them to fuck off. You know, if my dad and my mum and a judge can't tell me what to do, then who are you to tell me what to do? So basically, I was one of them kids that wouldn't listen to no one, and the writing was on the walls. My life was mapped out as far as I was concerned. That was my career.
Yeah.
So anyway, after spending numerous prison sentences, my mum and my dad, as I said, I moved to Littlehampton. I moved back to London. I joined a little gang, which was like, I'm not going to mention no names, obviously, but I joined a little gang, and a couple of the boys in the gang was the ones what I was brought up with from an early age, who I met when I first moved around Streatham. So yeah, I joined a gang, and there was probably 15, 20 of us in the gang, and basically we used to bounce off each other. We was out robbing and getting up to all sorts. Smoking. I first started smoking cannabis probably 12, 13. Before that, I was sniffing glue Evo stick as a skinhead from teenagers, 10, sniffing glue. Went from glue up to cannabis, and then from cannabis went to cocaine, from cocaine to crack, from crack to heroin, from heroin to methadone. It was an ongoing vicious cycle all the way through. Ongoing. Yeah, so where was I at now, Jack? So yeah, so anyway, I ended up getting a very, very big prison sentence at the end of it. But prior to that, you know, we started, me and my gang, we was going around numerous like friends' houses all around Southwest London, staying at different people's houses. I've moved out of my sister's house at this time, so I moved in with my gang, and we was never in one place for too long. So we'd stay in one place for a couple of days and then move on to another place for a couple of days and then move on. I forgot to mention I was very good on motorbikes, so I got put on a wheel for doing armed robberies at 17 years of age. With my gang, they knew I was shit hot on a bike, good in a car, So like I started as a getaway driver, really rose up through the ranks quick, and in the end I was going in there myself as a front man, gunman, robbing people, which I don't want to glamorise in any way at all, because of the lifestyle what I've had. I wouldn't wish on no one whatsoever, you know. So yeah, I joined a gang, and we was only sniffing cocaine at this time, but sniffing it in a big way, you know. We was doing a few £100 a day between us, each. Sorry, not between us, each. And at that time, I think it was in the early 90s, a thing called freebase. It come out before then, but I only got to know about it in the early 90s, probably about 94, 95. We were sniffing so much coke, we needed more coke to get the same high, and needed more money, and you know what that leads to. So basically, we got shown how to wash cocaine up, which is called freebasing.
Yep.
And I got shown how to wash cocaine up into crack, and started smoking crack. My habit started at about, I was like everyone else. I said to myself, like, I'll only smoke 2 crack stones a day, 40 quid a day. I'm going to keep control of it. I'm going to keep a lid on it. It ain't going to take control of me. But that progressed so rapidly, it's unbelievable. It went from £40 a day, like jumping forward quite a bit, Jack, but it went up from £40 a day to £2,000 a day each on our own within the space of...
I can believe it. It's a
6 months.
Evil drug.
Within 6 months. So yeah, it went from taking cars to burglaries, from burglaries to robberies, and as a result, at the end of it, when we got arrested at the end of it, we got charged. Well, we got pulled in for 30 times 30 armed robberies. We had Barnes flying squad and Tower Bridge flying squad. Those both arguing with each other what jurisdiction we fit, because they both wanted us that fucking bad. But at that time, they couldn't get us because they didn't know our names. They didn't know our date of birth. They didn't know absolutely nothing about us. All they had was our MO, which is our mapping offence, and a vague description of us. So, and where I was good on bikes and cars, we was changing our bikes and cars every other day. We was changing our addresses every other day. I didn't have a clue where he was, and they couldn't catch us. So basically, when the shit hit the fan, what happened was one day after we probably committed about 25 armed robberies running up to this, we went back. We come back to where we were staying one day. There was 5 of us, two carloads and a bike, 2 up on a bike. Well, we went back to this flat in Tooting, and as we entered the road, all the road was taped off and marked off. There was police all over the place. There were guns everywhere. There were snipers on the roof. It was like a war zone. I couldn't believe it. But as luck had it, we had seen them before they had seen us. So, and also there was 2 ambulances what turned up. So basically we turned away, and within 5 minutes my phone rang, and it was one of the neighbours who lived next door to us. And he rang me up and he said, please don't come back, they've been here all day, there's ambulances waiting around here, you know. And they come to iron us out, you know what I mean. They come to kill us. I know that for a fact, because we was absolute a danger and a threat to society at that time. I wasn't really a threat to anyone minor, and I did hurt people, you know. But as far as I was concerned, I was robbing like post offices, banks, building societies, big places like that. And I always seemed to think that, like, although I was robbed them, they was going to get that money back on the insurance. So at that time, I didn't really feel, I couldn't really see any victims in this at all. All I knew was I had to get in there. We had to get the money, and we had to get back home to buy some more drugs. And
Are you doing this with a shotgun? Is this with a shotgun? Is this with a knife?
Yeah.
So, can I ask?
Yeah, we had numerous firearms. We had a 32, we had a 38, we had a pump action shotgun. So yeah, I mean, I used to go in there and, you know, let a shot off in the roof, know that I weren't, just to let them know that I weren't fucking about, and within like 60 seconds maximum, we was out the door, gone.
So what's
Change
going through your
vehicles.
head?
At that time, nothing. I was completely numb. I mean, a few people have asked me after I come out at prison what was going through your head before you went in there. Um, the only thing what was going through my head before I went in there was I had to get that money. Whatever way or means it took for me to get that money, then I would have done it. I was oblivious to any victims. I was oblivious to anything. So I've jumped forward a little bit, Jack. Sorry, because I said here's my first interview.
It's all right. It's fine.
But I think what messed me up later, what really messed me up was my mum. When I got to, I think I was 27 or 28. My mum got secondary cancer. So basically, we all had to go to the hospital, and she got diagnosed with a cyst. They said it was a cyst, and then a few weeks later, we went back to the hospital, and they said to my mum right in front of me and my two older sisters, they said, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Lee or Mrs. Barnett at that time." They said, "I'm sorry, but you've got secondary cancer. It's come back, and you've got terminal cancer." So basically, my mum was going to die. You know. Um, really messed me up. I didn't join the gang because of like, and I can't blame anyone for my mistakes. Um, but seeing what I see when I was a kid and having all the hurt and the upsets, what I went through as a kid, it was inevitable that I was going to get a very, very big prison sentence. So my mum passed away. I was 29 years of age. Me and my two sisters was in the room at the time. We said goodbye. She died in my arms. That absolutely broke me in half. Um, as far as I was concerned, after my mum died, I didn't have nothing to live for, and I didn't want to live, and I didn't care about anyone around me neither. To be honest with you, my mum was my world, and she had gone out of my life, and everything else had gone out of my life. So I'm not blaming. I can't blame anyone for it, but within a few weeks after my mum passing away, that is when I purchased my own firearm, because I then had a seed in my head that even if I get shot coming out of somewhere, it doesn't bother me because I'm now with my mum. So
Right.
I had that mindset. So that's what made me very, very dangerous, because I did not care whether I got shot, killed or not. It didn't bother me at all at that time. And that's what makes someone a very, very dangerous man. A scared man and a frightened man makes someone a very dangerous man.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, my mum passed away, and it wasn't I think it wasn't even 18 months, 2 years after my mum had passed away. I got 12 years for the armed robbery. So whilst I was in prison, um, I didn't have time to mourn over my mum. You know yourself, getting a big sentence, what that does to you mentally, physically. You've got to be ready for them type of big sentences. And to be honest with you, now I'm glad, I'm lucky that I did go to prison as a young offender, and I did do it in ball stalls, because if I didn't do it in ball stalls and I didn't have that track record behind me, then that big sentence would have finished me.
Yeah.
Because what I see, what I experienced in them 12 years, I wouldn't even say, and I couldn't even start to put on camera. I went through
No.
that much, and I see that much, the hurt and the pain, and the deaths and the murders and the gang related stuff what I see in prison, especially in the category A prisons. When I got that 12 years, I was known as a live wire. So me and my other three co-defendants at that time was all put into prison as category A prisoners. We got sent to Highdown prison as category A prisoners, and I actually got released. Oh no, sorry, they dropped me down to a B cat, and I got released from Maidstone prison as a B cat, but they kept me on the book as an A cat for a good part of 7 years. In every ACAT dispersal prison in the country, from Whitemoor to Full Sutton to Long Lartin to Frankland, all around the category A prisons, you know, with all the top players, all the top boys. And yeah, I've got the 12 years. So done what I had to do to get through that 12 years. You know yourself, that's not an easy thing.
So when you're in court and that judge is giving you a sentence and he says 12 years, what did that do to you mentally? What did you know?
Right, what that done to me mentally, Jack, was I'm very sorry. I do run away a little bit before I can. I'll run before I can walk. Sorry, I'll get ahead of myself a little bit. Right, on sentence day, it was in a London Crown Court. Me and my other two, there was four of us who got charged. So one of my co-defendants went Queen's evidence on us.
Right.
He was a paid informer working for the flying squad. He initially got arrested for a street burglary. I don't know how the flying squad got hold of him, but the flying squad got hold of him, and they put him into a trap house.
Right. Yeah.
Basically, he went into a house where we was going to every other day to smoke drugs and party. To see if it was us what was committing these robberies. We wasn't aware at the time who he was. When I first went back to the house where we was going, I asked the bloke, I said, who's this geezer in here? Because we didn't know him. And we had a security van to do. It was a Monday morning, so this was a Sunday. We see him, and we had a security van to do Monday morning. And one of my drivers, which was on the wheel, had broken his leg at the time, so he was off. So it was just fate, really. So anyway, this guy presented himself to me, and he said, "Hello, mate." He said, "My name is blah 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 blah." He said, "I'm on the run. I've been recalled back to prison." He said, "And I know a few of the boys that you work with." He said, "Do you mind if you bring me on one of your bits of work?" He said, "So I can get some money and get out of the country." So me being me, but my other three codies at this time did smell something about him. I must admit. But me having a soft start and a weak spot, you know, a little bit vulnerable, I suppose you could say. I agreed to take him on. I said, "Yeah, okay." I said, "I'll give you the one chance and I'll put you on the wheel." So basically, we took him on about 5 or 6 armed robberies. And when we got arrested on the final armed robbery, it wasn't even a robbery; it was an attempted robbery, because this was the only attempted robbery we actually got arrested and charged with. The rest were robberies. But yeah, so I run into a little post office which was in Merton at the time in Surrey, with 3 codees, and the bloke behind the screen hit the panic button straight away. I heard the sirens come in, so I decided to leave up camp and get out of there quick. You know, we was going to do another one in the afternoon, so it didn't really make no difference to us. Yeah, so we got away. We got into the getaway car where the driver was taken away, and we got a few miles up the road. I took all my clothes off, got my balaclava off, got my gun, put it all into a bag, give him all the stuff, and I said, "Right, take this back to a lockup where we've got, and we'll meet you up later on. I'll give you a bell when we're at home." So we started walking across the footbridge, which was about 3 miles away from the actual job what we'd done. So I was walking across the footbridge, and all of a sudden, a helicopter landed in the middle of a field, all armed police, SO19, Trojan, firearms, all round us, put red dots all over us, laid us down. I wasn't going to move because I knew one slight flinch and I was a dead man, and so was my other codees. But we didn't know at this time, so we didn't think we had nothing on us. So we just like going casual. "What you want about? Fuck off." They took us to the police station, quickly remanded us into a high down prison, put us under category A, and a few days later the flying squad had come up and started interviewing us, asking us about all these other robberies all around southwest London. And I just laughed. We was laughing at them, me and my other 3 codees, who was literally saying to them, "What you want about? You've got nothing on us. We've done nothing. We're not robbers. You've got the wrong people." So we thought we'd gotten away with it because they didn't have no forensics, no fingerprints, no DNA, absolutely nothing. And it wasn't up until about 2 weeks later, and I was in my cell, and I got my letters from my solicitor and I opened my letters up, and it was my debts, my statements, and I read I read all my statements, and I read inside the statement that the guy what I took on the wheel was a paid informer, and he was put on us to actually put us down. So he succeeded in that. He took us down. I got 12 years. My other Cody got 13 years. Another one got 9 years, and the informer, he got 6 years. So he still got 6 years, and we got put into prison. We was told it was on our page 16s on our prison reports, never ever to meet up with this informer. Obviously for the reason because he grassed us up. So yeah, so every time I went to a different jail, he had just been there, and he was going on the landings on the wing like he was a big player, you know. I'm with Joey Barnett and I'm with his mates, and he was giving all that, and he'd met a few of my good friends who I can mention. One of them was Paul Massey, Dominic Noonan, you know, Yami B. There was you know, so many different names on there. The Essex Boys. So no one actually knew at his time that he was a grass, because he'd actually told all my mates that he was my Cody. So basically, the informer had apparently been given a contract to go into a paedophile cell and cut this paedophile up for this contract. And the contract was only a little bit of heroin because he was a smackhead. He was a complete smackhead, a heroin addict, a brownhead. I hate it. But anyway, so basically, this informer on my case, he was running around cutting people and giving it all the big end, trying to gain his stars. But in the meantime, I'd photocopied all my statements, and I put my statements all around the prisons. And all the boys got hold of it, and they realised that he was a glass. So they was using him in the end for him to stay on normal location. They was using him as a DOS or a gopher. Anyway, cut a long story short, he run into the cell. He cut the nonce up, and the nonce went on the panic button. The screws come, found him with all the cuts. The police come in, and the guy who put the contract, the guy who supposedly put the contract out, which I'm not going to mention his name, he's a very big player. I was in Parkhurst at the time, and he writ me. Paul writ to me. I'm going to say his first name. His name is Paul. Paul writ to me, and Paul said, your co-defendant, he's actually written a statement about me saying that I've took a contract out on him. He's going on duress, and he's trying to say that he made him cut this nonce up. So basically, he's going on duress. What he'd done with me and my co-defendants initially, he actually told the police that me and my firm had kidnapped him, held him hostage, and he was in fear of his life because we threatened to kill him, and he was going under duress. So that's how he only got 6 years. Right. So to cut a long story short, he was going the same way on the guy what supposedly put the contract out on him. Right. The police had come up and interviewed all parties. The guy what supposedly put the contract out didn't get any. He got NFA'd. He writ to me, and he asked me if I could write a letter to his solicitor to give a judge a character of what my co-defendant was all about. You know, to let him know that he was a paid informer and he was a complete and utter liar. So called karma really, because what happened was the informer on my case ended up getting arrested for Section 18 GBH on the nonce what he'd cut up, and he got took back to court. His 6 years got squashed, and he ended up getting a life sentence. So me and my other Cody's got out, started living a life as normal. Like, well, I'll tell you a bit about that later. But yeah, so basically he was still away doing life. He got ill plates. So yeah. That was the 12 years. I got out from that 12 years. I got out in 2005, and where my mum had passed away previously, I inherited quite a lot of money because me and my two sisters, we had sold the house, so we inherited quite a lot of money, and I was putting that into different business, putting it into different projects, and I was making that work for me. But where I was just out of prison, you've got to understand, after doing 12 years, and I just got that big large lump of money. I didn't really have that mindset or that way of life to actually go ahead to succeed with the money. So I partied hard. I've got no regrets. I loved every minute of it. I had the best. I bought everything nice, all the good things what I've ever wanted. I bought all them, and it lasted me 3 years. So like an idiot, I wish I'd have put it into property. Because I had that much money, I should have put it into property. But I got through it. I'd kicked the crack out of it. I got rid of that, and I started going out with my friends. And I moved to where my mum had initially set up, West Sussex, at Hampton, when I got out in that big sentence. Wasn't out long from that big sentence, from that 12 years, probably 6 months. Still on licence. Don't know what made me do it. Went straight back to my old ways. I ain't going to mention what I've done, but something pulled me straight back into it. I didn't go back into my gang. I went with another couple of guys, but yeah, I basically it was an addiction for me. Doing these robberies becoming an addiction for me, and it was more harder to actually kick the addiction of committing robberies than what it was of kicking the addiction of drugs. It becoming an addiction of me, where the money was coming so fast and it was going so fast, it became an addiction for me. So I went back at it. Done out of godsend, I didn't get arrested for any more armed robberies, but I got arrested for a commercial burglary, and I still had a few years left on my license from the 12 years. How old was I now? I was probably in my 30s, probably 34, 35, something like that. So yeah, I got arrested for another commercial burglary on a warehouse. Got sent back to prison. Got another 3 years. So I got recalled on the 12 years. I had a couple of years left on the license, so I had to do that. And then I started my 3-year sentence. So I ended up doing another 4 or 5 years. That took me up into 2010. I got out from Maidstone in 2010, and I moved in with my sister Angela. At that time, we was living in Mitcham, southwest London, where we was brought up, not far from where we was brought up. All my friends around me, all my old friends around me, they all knew me for the wrong reasons, to be honest with you, not for the right reasons, because I had a big reputation by then. And just before I got out, I don't know what made me do it, but I joined a course down in Chapel, and it was called the Alpha course. And
I know the Alpha.
I started doing this Alpha course, and I was doing this for a few months, and I got so far into it, the vicar actually asked me to get baptised, because I had never been christened or nothing like that. So basically, I got baptised and christened as a born again Christian, and for the last few months of my sentence, I started really, really knuckling down and putting my head into books, started reading and writing, because I couldn't really read and write. So I put myself on an education course. After a few months, I took sitting guilds. I passed all them, and I'd come out on this big on the recon, the 3-year sentence, with a completely and utterly different mindset. To be honest with you, I don't know whether it was age, experience, loss, trauma. I don't know what it was that made me change. A light switch, I just don't know what it was. A woman, I'm not too sure. But I moved in with my sister Angela. As I say, I've always had a very good family network. I'm the apple of my two sisters' eyes, and I still am today. So yeah, basically, I moved in with my sister Angela, and she had a few friends around the area, and one of her friends' name was Sam. I didn't know Sam at the time; she was my sister's friend, but we started talking on Facebook, believe it or not. But we started talking on Facebook. She obviously knew my family, but she wasn't really too clued up on my background at that time. She'd obviously heard of me, but she wasn't really aware of like my real lifestyle at that time. And I wasn't really about to tell her because for one, I didn't want to frighten her off. It would have frightened her off. And for two, I wanted to try and bury the hatchet and try and put it behind me. So basically, yeah, so we had an arrangement, and we started seeing each other, started going out with each other. Sam had a few problems at that time. She was not an alcoholic, but she had a few drinking problems. She'd been through a lot of domestic violence with her ex-partners. At that time, she was getting tormented and victimised by one of her exes on a daily basis. So yeah, basically, Sam got with me, and we type of bounced off each other. We was feeding off each other. I was giving her strength, and she was giving me strength. And the further and the more the days were going on, you know, we was falling in love even more and more and more. And eventually, we moved in together. So she had a flat at the time in Mitcham. I moved in with Sam, and obviously her exes stopped hassling her after a few kind words. Her exes stopped hassling her. Sam stopped drinking. I'd stopped taking drugs because I just got out in that sentence, so I'd come out completely and utterly clean. As I say, Sam stopped drinking, I stopped taking drugs, and we just persevered with each other. We argued a lot when we first got together, like everyone else does. But where I'd seen my mum getting physically and mentally abused by my stepdad and attacked, it wasn't never in my nature to ever hit women or harm women. I've got a bad mouth, don't get me wrong, like we all have, but I'm totally against anything to do with domestic violence or anything like that. So obviously Sam liked that in me, you know, because she wasn't used to any men treating her like that. She was only young at the time too, do you know what I mean? But yeah, so moved in with Sam. We stayed in London for a few years, and as I say, my family moved up to West Sussex into Littlehampton. I've been there previously, as I say, when I was 15, 16, my mum had moved up there, so I was backwards and forwards all the time. I couldn't settle in Littlehampton at that time. I wasn't ready to settle. And I knew a few guys from around this area also what had come from London, but it just wasn't for me at that time. But this time round, I was with Sam, and I just remembered what it was really like in Littlehampton. You know, it's a very nice, peace, calm, loving place. Everyone's friendly, you know, and it's the right place to settle down and sort your life out. So it's a very, very hard decision and a hard choice to make because I had so many temptations, I had so many triggers. I had people ring me up on a daily basis asking me to go back with them on different jobs. When I first got off Sam, I had the police, like I used to say to Sam, that's the plainclothes police follow me behind. I know it's the police. And because she wasn't really aware of that lifestyle, she used to say, no, it's not, don't get paranoid, it's not the police.
You could spot it from a mile away.
As sure had it, we used to pull up outside her house and bang, they was blatant. They used to pull right up beside me in front of my missus and say to me, what you been up to today, Joe? You behaving yourself? So I was right all along. They was following me right away from the off, you know. As soon as I got out in that big sentence, they was following me.
Yeah.
I was a high mapper. I don't know if you know about mapper. I was mapper 3 from probation. So I was a high risk. I was high risk for committing further crime and for going back to prison. But yeah, so basically we moved up to Littlehampton. Got our own little place up here. We've got all our I've got all my family around me up here. Sam, unfortunately, has got her family, which is still in London, but we do visit them from time to time. But she's got all my family up here, and her family's my family now. So yeah, I decided to that's when I decided to really speak out and to lay some foundations. I joined a counselling course which was in Worthing, a big firm called CGL. It's Change, Grow, Live. I was shotgunning a counsellor for a few months as a peer mentor for drugs and alcohol, and I qualified as a peer mentor. So after I qualified as a peer mentor for drugs and alcohol, which to be honest with you is unbelievable for someone like me with my track record, and it was the hardest thing ever to kick the habit of drugs. That was more harder than anything in the world, really, was to say no. And also to be able to go into different places with different people and to know that there's going to be drugs about, because we live in this world where people do take drugs. You know, you go into a pub on the high street, you go into a toilet and there's people sniffing cocaine off the toilet seat. Numerous occasions I was offered it, do you know what I mean? Over the years. But I've become very, very strict on myself. I don't know whether it's because of prison or what I've been through, my past, my drug addiction. I don't know what made me turn the other way, but I completely went the other way against drugs, and I went full into it, trying to help others with addictions and other problems what they have. So yeah, I've done this peer mentor course. That was the first foundation what I laid, and I've learned to read and write whilst I was in prison. So we bought a computer PC, and I started thinking about writing my first book. So I didn't really know where it was going to go, how far the book was going to go, or whether it was even going to be published, or that, you know, whether anyone was ever going to buy it, or whether it was going to be any good. I just didn't have a clue. All I knew was I was writing this book, and I was writing it every day for 18 months to 2 years, a few hours every single day until I finished it. And at the end of it, you know, we published it on Amazon, and I didn't spell check it, so there was hundreds of spelling mistakes in it. I had to put it back offline again. That was when, like, my partner Sam come in, and she said, right, let me help you, do you know what I mean? And that's when Sam started like going over it and not rewriting it, but going over all the mistakes. Then and yeah, when it was all done, all the spelling mistakes and all that done, it got put back onto Amazon, and that was it. It got published. So today I'm clean as they can be. I've got a whole new set of new friends around me. I've still got all my family around me. We go out for walks with the dog, and I'm trying my hardest to obviously help others what need my help. But with this coronavirus now out, also we was another thing I'd like to mention is me and my partner, we both felt the need to help other people. So what we started doing was we started walking about around the streets in our local area, and we was looking for homeless people, because obviously I've been homeless myself, and so has my partner. So I could relate to homeless people. I've got the gift of the gaff with my mouth, or I don't know if it's with my mouth or with my ways, but I've got a way of going up to people, talking to people, making people feel at ease, and opening up to me, you know. So basically, we started initially going out just with a couple of flasks. We was going out of an evening, and we was going to our local area and feeding the homeless. And we started going out giving hot soups, hot teas, and coffees. That progressed and started moving onwards really, really, really fast. We got recognised by other big charities in my local area to come on board with him. And then obviously this coronavirus come out and it's just put a cap on everything and stopped everything. So
yeah, it has.
That's where I am at the minute. But I've lived a very, very fruitful life, Jack. And obviously we're not going to fit all this in one session, you know, because
no, we'll get you back on at some point. You know, I've always got time to get people back on and bringing more to the thing, because I don't think that we can always get what we want out in one session.
That's correct,
because after we've watched it back and we've thought about it, we think, well, we should have said that. We should have said
I'm
that.
like that all the
So
time.
I like to get people back on and see how they're doing after a couple of months.
Yeah, I've got so many different. I mean, the suicide and the murders, what I see in the category A prisons was, it's got to be a completely different podcast for it, because I see 3 murders, I see 2 suicides. Whilst I was in prison on the last occasion, I'd done the Samaritan course just after the Alpha course, and I was used in the prison as a prisoner listener. And the officers used to come and get me out of my cell all hours in the morning for suicide. People who committed suicide, and one guy I got really close to. He was doing life. He found his partner in bed with another guy, and he stabbed him one too many times and killed him. So he got a life sentence. He had no previous convictions. He had a 9-to-5 job. He was married and he had 2 kids. And he killed the guy and got a life sentence. So he was on suicide watch, and the officers was at his cell every couple of hours looking at him, and he used to really, really like try to kill himself. I mean, not little slashes going across his arms. He'd go upwards. Numerous occasions, the officers would come to my cell because I got really close to him. His name is Patrick. I got really close to him, and he confided in me. And I took him on as my little like my little brother, to be honest with you. And on the last occasion, what I see him, you know, he said to me just before lock up at tea time, he said to me, he said, Joe, he said, I'm going to do myself. I'm going to kill myself. He said, so this is the last time you're going to see me. But where he'd tried to commit suicide on numerous occasions, we did believe him, but we knew it was an ongoing thing, you know. So no one really took him that serious at that time. Well, an hour later, when the officers opened the door for us to go out and get our tea, I come outside my cell, and he was 2 cells along from me. So I went to his cell and I shouted out, Patrick, come on, we're going to get something to eat. We're going to get our tea. He wasn't answering. He had the green blanket pulled over his head. So the first one I noticed was puddles and puddles of blood seeping through the mattress onto the floor, I know it really messes me up, to be honest with you, Pat. It really fucks me up still. And I pulled the blanket back, and his eyes was out open. He was dead. I don't know how long he'd been dead for. I pressed the panic button. All the screws come. The doctors come. They put everyone on lockdown. I heard them trying to resuscitate him. No, it was too late. He killed himself. That was just one occasion, you know. Prior to that, I'd seen a few other people doing it. I'd seen another guy hang himself in Wandsworth prison. He'd hung himself off the prison cell bars. And then I see a few murders along the way, you know. So I've got quite a lot to talk to you about, Jack. But as I say, we're not going to get it all in one hit.
No, we'll do that another time. And so your first book is South London Border Boy, is that right? Yeah. You say you've got another book out as well?
Yeah, the other book is coming out. I haven't really, I haven't named it in a minute because I haven't finished it. But that's my first one. I don't know if you can see it on there.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
That was the first. But yeah, so my second one is my first book series called a South London Border Boys Towers. Yeah. That's on Amazon. It got launched in the summer, and I've sold up to this date, I think about 130 books.
Nice.
It's gone pretty good. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
believe it. The support and the feedback what I'm getting off of line is blowing me away. You know, sometimes, you know, I sit there and I actually read the feedback and it makes me cry to know that the inspiration what I'm giving to other people reading my book is breathtaking. It's mind blowing. I couldn't even start to explain to you the feelings what it gives me when I hear that people say I'm an inspiration to other people, because I
It's
never in my
nice, isn't it?
wildest dreams ever thought I'd be that.
It's nice because,
And
you know, I mean, we've led, gone down some of the similar paths,
dark roads.
and you know, I was a burden on society, let's say,
Yeah,
and people would cross the road to get away from me,
yeah,
and to go from that to actually people cross the road to come and speak to me now. People tell me how they love my books, how
yeah.
they love my work, how they're loving this podcast. It's just, you know,
Absolutely
how my
amazing.
life has changed over the past 7 years. It's ridiculous. So I know that feeling that's in your heart when you start
Yeah.
getting that. And there's so many people out there that are trying to do that.
Oh
You know,
yeah, definitely.
we work with a lot of them, but you know, there are people that do take advantage of that, and there are people that do drag that down and you know,
Yeah.
put a bad name to it.
Unfortunately, there is.
You know, we've all gone through that as of late, but you know, at the end of the day, this podcast is to show that not everybody that's, you know, been in that life stays in that life, and that there are people that are out now that want to use their life as an education
Indeed.
to others.
Indeed.
And
Yeah. Yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
I was probably a bit like yourself. I was oblivious to any victims at that time when I was in that mix of it, Jack. I couldn't see any victims. But now the remorse I've got is, you know, I could sit here talking to you, crying now, just thinking about the impact what I must have left on my victims. You know, one just before we go, on one of the jobs what I done, it was the main post office in Mitcham, called Lansdowne Parade. Um, there was only two of us. There's only my wheelman and me, and I run in there, and there was like over 100 people. It was Monday morning, 9 o'clock. Everyone was just getting paid and getting their money. It was, you know, I run in like a raving lunatic. I let shots off on the roof. I laid everyone down on the floor. I emptied all the kiosks. You know, I come out there with thousands and thousands of pounds, and it's only now I realise what I really must have done to people. You know, I put guns to people's heads. You know, I've terrorised people, but it's only now I realise the remorse I've got and the guilt what I carry nowadays is absolutely unbelievable. I have been diagnosed very recently from a very well from my counsellor for having PTSD because of the lifestyle what I've had. But I'm probably a bit like yourself, Jack. I'm old school. I'm hardcore, and I don't believe in medicating things. I don't believe in self-medicating or even taking medication for things like that. I believe you're only supposed to take medication if you're really ill. I mean, PTSD to me, it is an illness, but you know, once you've led the lifestyle we've led, it's inevitable you're going to get PTSD.
yeah, I mean, I suffer from PTSD quite badly at times, and
Yeah, I do.
you know, I unashamedly admit that I'm on medication for
Yeah,
my mental illnesses and that.
yeah, no,
Um,
right.
you know, I believe that as a person, I need to do what the doctor says, and if the
Of
doctor
course,
says I've got to take this and take that, I'll
of
take this
course.
and take that. Obviously, there's been things that have disagreed with me,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's all like trial and error. But you
I,
know, I fully respect that. You know, you're out there and you don't want to medicate.
no, what I mean by medication, Jack. Sorry, I come across wrong. What I mean by is self-medicating. I don't mean medication from the doctors. I mean other medication. What people
No,
take.
no, we've all done that, and that's
Yeah, you know,
dangerous.
but medication from the doctors. If that's what you need for your moods to stabilise you, then that's all well and good. You know, that's what it takes. You know,
I know
if that's
people that have done that. You know, and I've tried to do that in the past, and it's taken me back on a dangerous road.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, you don't play with knives if you don't want to get cut at the end of the day. So, you know, as like you say with Alpha,
yeah,
I'm a big fan of Alpha.
Brilliant.
You know, I've done 18 Alpha courses.
It opens your world up, doesn't it?
It does. I've done 18 Alpha courses, helped lead the last 13.
That's amazing.
I absolutely, you know, and even if, you know, you've got no inkling for God or whatever,
Yeah.
I would suggest, you know, I'm a born again Christian, but I would suggest going into an Alpha course and finding out about it, because it's a really good.
Oh God, yeah, it learns you so much. It's unbelievable.
And it's a meal as well, you know. We always get a meal and then a chat, and you know, it's just friendly, and it's a
really
good,
really nice bunch of people around you, you know, and you know they're not judging you or for what you've done or what you are, or, you know, it's a new journey. It's a new journey, so they take you for what they see, not your past.
Exactly.
The old saying is, "Don't never judge a book by its cover." But unfortunately, we live in a world where we do get stereotyped. I get stereotypes everywhere, you know, because the tattoo on my face there,
Yeah.
you know, my reputation. So I thought it'd be quite easily for someone like me to fall back in to my old lifestyle if I wasn't strong the way I was now.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you walk down the street and people look at you. I get that all the time, but I've learned to overcome that now.
Yeah.
And not to not judge anyone.
That's good, mate. That's
Just
really
new tools
good.
what I've learned, you know.
That's really good.
And also everyone deserves a second chance in life.
And a third, and a fourth. You know, some people get second, third, fourth chances. You know, it's. I've really got a heart for giving people a chance, and you know, a chance to shine and being a voice for other people. I didn't have many people that I could look up to like that.
Yeah.
You know, I love my dad to bits. My dad's proper hard worker, but I had my own sort of way in my head. And I had sort of positive male influences in my life, but then I got into the negative influences, people like you know, Paul Sykes and stuff like that, and that got me into things. But now I've got positive. I believe that you need a positive male influence in your many. So you know, you've got people that are around online like Darren Barden and Terry Hill and Terry Ellis, and you know, it's good to have people like that because they know what we've been through, but it's also good to have people that we can be accountable to.
Of course.
And that's the thing about once you have gone from criminal to educator, you need that accountability, and you need to have people to be accountable to, whether it's to be accountable to God, whether it's to be accountable to your family, to your wife, to the you know, the ministers of the church, whatever.
Everyone's accountable.
We have to be accountable, and kind of doing this is, you know, also showing accountability. And I just want to
learning experience, a learning curve for people, for some.
Yeah, I want to congratulate you on this, mate.
For us.
It is. You know, you've done really well. This is your first live interview.
It is my very first one. Yeah.
You've been open. You've been honest. It's been emotional in parts. You know, and that's what we need to see. We need more honest people.
Honest people, exactly. Yeah.
To be able to say, you know, I done this. I done that. This is how it panned out. You know, you don't want to do it that way. We need to show that is thing, you know. So I really love what you do, which is why I'll always continue supporting people that need that chance to step up onto a platform.
Yes.
You know,
that's the main thing.
We'll have people try and take the piss, and you have people to you know, take you for a mug. But at the end of the day, you know,
they're the mug.
Yeah,
they're the mugs, because look how far we've come and look where they are.
Exactly. You know, it's about being a positive.
Of course, it's about being a positive role model now. You know, it goes back to like counselling. I've been in front of counsellors years ago. I mean, I'm not slagging a lot of counsellors off because they do a great and marvellous job helping people. But I've been in front of counsellors previously, Jack, and you can just tell all they've done is they've read it off a computer or they've read it out of a book. There's nothing better than sitting next to a counsellor, someone that's been there, seen it and done it and got the experience.
Exactly.
Experience is better than knowledge.
Exactly, which is why these work. You know, there are plenty of podcasts out there, and there's some really good podcasters.
Oh yeah, there is.
You know, I'm not going to start naming people, but you know, there's some positive podcasters out there. You know, there's. But at the end of the day, I think that we need to be giving people this chance to be able to get their story across. You know, I love your story. You know, and you've certainly got balls to stand up and come on this and do your first interview. You've done really well. You know, and I want to thank you for giving me the chance to be your platform because it means a lot to me.
Yeah, it does to me too, because obviously it's pretty, you know, from yourself, from experience, it's pretty hard to open up to someone what you don't really know physically, you know. But you know, you've just got to believe in faith and you've just got to hold on to the good things, you know, and forget the bad things. And as you said, drop the negative things out and go with the positive things. And that journey will lead you into success. Positive, not negative.
Of course it will. It will. All right then, mate. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'll sign off here. If you just hang about for a few minutes, I'll sign off. I'll take it offline, and we'll just have a quick chat afterwards, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. You've been absolutely amazing. Is it your first podcast or your second one, Jack?
This is the second one of this series. It's my 8th and 9th podcast.
You're doing really well, and you made me feel at ease, mate. Good job.
Cheers, mate. Right, okay, so
keep doing it, bruv.
Thank you, brother. Right.
Peace out, man.
Peace, man. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. The episode 3 is on Tuesday, and that is Simon Kindleside's the UK Ironman, who uses a Rewalk suit to he used it to do the London Marathon.
Okay, I'll be tuned into that. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. So thanks guys for tuning in. I'm going to sign out now, and we'll see you soon.
Peace out.
Cheers. Right. I've just got to work out how to stop this now, mate. Hang on. There we go. Stop. See you later, guys.